So should I start the program?
Yes, please.
Okay. Greeting. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that we are facing. I'm using my iPhone to be with you, so I've been trying. I don't know what's happening in our neighborhood that I don't have internet. Thank you for being here. So we start the program with delay. Hundreds, if thousands of women are murdered by their families each year in the name of family honor. It's difficult to get precise number on this phenomenon and on the number of women that are being killed by their family. The murders frequently go unreported, the perpetrator unpunished, and the concept of family honor justifies the act in the eyes of some societies. Honor crimes and honor killings are not specific to any region, nor they limited to any region of the world. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, emerging data reports from those on the front line have showed that all types of violence against women and girls, particularly domestic violence and honor killings and crimes, has intensified. This is the shadow pandemic still growing amidst of COVID-19 crisis. Examples of honor killings are inclusive of having pre-material, extra-material, or post-material sex, refusing to enter into an arranged marriages, seeking a divorce or separation, engaging in interfaith relations or relations with persons from a different caste, in the case of India, being the victim of a sexual crime, dressing in clothing, jewelry, or accessory which are associated with sexual deviance, engaging in a relationship in spite of moral marriage's impediments or bans or homosexuality. While there is increased awareness on this issue, states in many countries remain reluctant to take the necessary step to end impunity of honor killings. Honor crimes are a clear violation of women's human rights, and states are bound to protect women from such violations. Nonetheless, in many countries, including Iran, Afghanistan, Turkey, Pakistan, and Iraq, honor crimes are either condoned through government's inaction or defended as legitimate cultural practices. So without further ado, let us hear from our panelists. Our first panelist is Dr. Rizwan Mokata. Rizwan Mokata is a lecturer, scholar, and women's rights activist with over 40 years of experience in social change. She has been an active member of Iranian women's rights movement and has set up various association groups and committees to empower women on issues of peace, environment, health, and gender issues such as violence against women. Moqaddam is one of the founding members of the 1 million signature campaign in Iran, which aimed to collect 1 million signatures in support of changing discriminatory laws against women in the country. Continued her struggle to end violence and discrimination against women abroad by launching numerous campaigns such as All Against Acid Attack campaign in 2015 and the campaign to stop honor killings in 2020. In 2009, she received the Quadriga Award for 1 million signatures campaign and her nonviolent struggles. Rizwan Jan, we are very, very glad to have you here. Please start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elahe, for introducing me. Parveen, if you could please share the PowerPoint that I sent by email to you. Yeah, but I'm good. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm glad to see you here. Thank you, all the panelists, for accepting our invitation. Thank you, Elijah, for introducing me. We are going to talk about who we are, the campaign's goal, the definition of honor killings as crisis, and outcomes of the survey, 1,220 cases, laws that encourage honor killings, and our demands. We, a group of women's rights activists and gender equality advocates, both inside Iran and abroad, have reason to give voice to those who have been silenced and are founded in the corner of houses and in cemeteries, killed with axes, sickles, knives, and poison. These crimes are often committed by male family members on the pretext of preserving their families or tribe honor. The campaigns aims to awaken the consciences and to end the honor killings. Campaign's main goal is stop honor killings, but it is also pursuing other goal, because we believe that honor killings is a multi-dimensional problem. The campaign's primary focus is on two aspects of cultural and legal root cause, which incite the murdering of women by men under the pretext of defending honor. Laws, culture, and misogynistic structure are permuted directly and indirectly from primary education to higher education by the state media and institutionalized patriarchy in the society, and all collectively provide context of honor killings. Thus, the campaign is simultaneously focusing on changing law that openly or covertly support gender inequality and honor killing, as well as changing the culture of misogyny and gynophobia in Iran. The honor killings are often referred to the murder of women by their male relatives. The victim of the honor killings are punished for disgracing their family honors, dignity, or reputation. This included suspicion, refusing to marry, being raped, divorcing, having extramarital affair, chatting with a stranger, and on social media, such as Facebook, Telegram, or Instagram, running away from home, addiction, choosing a job that it is not approved by men in the family, for example, modeling, travel without permission of the father or husband and even brother. But honor killings are not limited to the killing women for honor. Killing LGBTQ people are also included. For example, in May 2021, in Ahvaz, one of the southern cities in Iran, 20-year-old Ali Reza from the LGBT community were brutally murdered by his brother and his cousin, because they believed that Ali Reza had tarnished the family reputation. The honor killing more common in the Islamic ruled countries and communities that adhere to tribal tradition, ethnic tradition. In recent years, honor killing have become a crisis. International investigation show an increasing trend of the honor killings in the last 2 decades. According to the United Nations report, in 2000, 5,000 women were killed annually, while the latest report of the United Nations Office of the Drug and Crime around states that 87,000 women were killed worldwide in 2017. According to this report, 50,000 women were killed by their husband or ex-husband or partners. The result of my study of 1,220 cases are in the line with the United Nations report in terms of increasing the trend of the honor killings. The growing trend of the honor killings is very disturbing and alarming. This study shows that about 29% of honor killings occurred in Tehran province. This shows that this is the contrary to the popular belief, because most of the people, they think that honor killings just happen in the remote villages or small towns. In Khuzestan, Khorasan, Kurdistan, Kermanshah, East Azerbaijan, and Khuzestan, the frequency of honor killing is higher than the other provinces. The tools used by the killers confirm that these killings were not accidental and out of the immediate anger. This is all by the plan, and the tools used by the killers, mostly 21% firearms, weapons or of war, 31% with knife, 22% shooting, and 26% burning, poisoning, hanging, bring alive, stoning, beheading with an axe, dagger, sword, or forcing suicide. And the most cases happened between 2018 and 2022 in this study that I did, and 47% of the other killings reached in the media between this period of time. The average age of the victims is 27 years, and most of the murders are in the range 15 to 35 years, while the average age of the killers is 40, and those between 22 and 24 have committed the most honor killings. This is the distribution of honor killings in Iran, this map, and this graph shows that most of the cases were happened in 2021. The laws that encourage honor killings, the article in the civil and criminal laws of the Islamic Republic of Iran are contrary to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Article 630 and 301 and 303 of the Islamic Penal Code are among these cases. The Article 630 allows a man who sees his wife in the bed with another man to kill both of them. Our demands, we believe that the law must support and preserve the whole of society, regardless of gender, religion, beliefs, ethnicity, and race, elimination of discriminatory laws against women based on the International Human Rights Declaration. We demand the Islamic Republic to protect women at risk by providing safe houses throughout the country with easy access. We urge the Islamic Republic to join the Convention of the elimination all form of violence against women. We also urge the Islamic Republic in Iran to implement the convention to preserve the rights of child, which Iran is signatory. We will join hands with our sister in the neighboring countries who encounter the same situation in order to put an end to the suffering of the women and girls by men in the geography of the region. Thank you very much for your attention.
very much, Rizwan Jan. Our next speaker is our dear friend Fatma Aytak. She's a feminist activist, one of the founders and co-chair of the Women's Party, and founder and chairwoman of Red Pepper Association in Turkey. She volunteered in ASIC platform, the Women's Platform for Equality and Women's Coalition of Turkey. She's an alumna of Bogazici, I'm sorry if I'm not.
Bosphorus.
Yeah, thank you. University, Industrial Engineering, Anadolu University, and Sociology. She has 25 years of private sector experience and 15 years in IT management, the last 5 years being the CIO of a Turkish conglomerate. She resides in New Jersey and works to energize the Turkish women civil society movement among Turkish American women through outreach. I have the honor of working closely with Fatma in the US Women Caucus, and I'm very pleased to have you. She's joining us today. Thank you, Fatma. Also for the Rizwan Jan, for the next, we're going to show the, after Fatma's speech, we're going to show the Kasir Ahmad presentation. Thank you. So I shared that so we be ready for that. Thank you very much. Fatma, we are eager to listen to you.
Thank you, Elahe. Thank you, really. Thanks for inviting me for this panel. I am honored to be here, to be with you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. You know, this is very heartbreaking subject, really. When I listen to Rizwan, I mean, yeah, I feel so sorry, so bad about it. My heart is struck. I will talk about the honor killings in Turkey, and I will make my speech in two parts. One is I will talk about two studies about the honor killings, and I will explain the environment in Turkey today. There is no data on the honor killings, to tell the truth, in Turkey. They cannot be collected. But there is a qualitative study made by the UNDP and UNFPA. They have examined 150 cases, and it is published in a report called titled Honor Killings Dynamics. It is an interesting study. There is another study I will talk about, which is made by the human rights lawyer. She compiled the data from the court files on honor killings and collected them in a book titled Loves Falling Down to the Ground or Buried to the Ground. I don't know the exact translation of it. She's a good friend of mine, Vildan Yirmishol. I will talk about these studies. The UNAP study is a qualitative study, as I said. It is made with the individuals from 4 different cities, which have the highest number of cases. Istanbul, Adana, Urfa, and Batman are the cities. These are from the 3 different regions of Turkey. One is from the Marmara region, the west. The others are from the southeast and Mediterranean regions. They are also interviewed with the relevant professions like lawyers, journalists, teachers, judges, psychologists, prosecutors, police officers, even the prison officers. It goes on like this. The significance of the study is its emphasis on the establishment of honor over the female body and the fact that the women's honor is placed under the supervision of all men in the society, which limits and subverts the freedoms. There is a strong tendency among the respondents in all provinces was to relate this concept of honor with women, women's sexuality, and control of women. In the questionnaire, when it was asked what honor is, 70% of the people state that it is women. Even the women themselves stated. And there's another thing maybe important. Most of the time, the young men were very hardliners, while the middle-aged seemed to be comparatively tolerant on it. The women's sexuality is understood of women's sexuality is quite wide. For instance, in Batman, one of the southeast cities of Turkey, a girl was executed just because she wanted a song in the program called From All Lovers to Those Beloved. Just she asked for a song, she was executed. In another province of Turkey, in the southeast Turkey, when a girl went to the cinema, she was executed. Another case, it's unbelievable, when she wore a tight trouser to a wedding. So this is really so heartbreaking. So if I come to according to the report, the reason behind the killings in the report is grouped in 5 different categories. I will go very rapidly on it. One is connecting these events to the socio-economic deprivations and underdevelopment. Many such people tend to consider honor killings to be more distant and as a problem of that belongs to a certain region or, for instance, rural area and to certain ethnic groups, people living in these regions. According to them, these events will be eliminated with the improvement of economic and social conditions. There's a second group connecting this event with the patriarchal relations and seeing them as the consequences of men establishing control over women, which I feel more close to this. In this view, which was especially expressed by some educated and professional women and those working in the women NGOs, it was also stated that the legal system acts in favor of the power, which is true. In the third, connecting these events to how people raise their children. In the fourth, connecting this event with the social pressure which renders people helpless. It was observed that this opinion was emphasized by a wide group of people, including some professionals. In places where such murders were experienced more frequently, according to them, the pressures imposed by the family or tribe on the perpetrators of murder is so great that they prefer to go to the prison rather than to be excluded from their communities. And moreover, imprisonment and their treatment in the prison can enhance their prestige. This is another reality. And the fifth one is connecting this event with the personal factors. Along with all these reasons, many people also mentioned that the media plays a very provocative role, especially through the events when they show in the magazine programs. Similar results are obtained from the work done by the lawyer Vildan 25oğlu. Vildan made her study based on the honor and custom. We call it töre in Turkish. It is called töre killings, custom killings, compiled from the court cases. The book, as I said, loves falling to the ground. I mean, she's talking about the people killed because of the honor. When she was working in one of the southeast cities, Gaziantep, She published the book of her research in those times. In her research, which is very valuable, there are 355 deaths, including 213 women and 142 men in 300 file cases. According to her study, 40% of the victims revealed by the files were younger than 17 years old, and nearly 90% of the defendants are men. Since I will talk about today later, today we are talking about femicides in Turkey. The data, the government is collecting the data, femicides, and also civil society also collecting the data. Apart from the figures published in the state, there is a NGO called We Will Stop Femicide platform. They also publishes the murders. The platform reports not only femicide, also suspicious deaths as well, because you know they say that the suspicious that most of them, not most of them, all of them are femicide in fact. In Turkey today, more than 400 women are killed every year, and this platform is also, I mean, beside the collecting data, they are also participating in the femicide court cases. If you look at the figures, for instance, in the last month, in March, 36 women are killed. In 2021 report, 497, approximately 500 women were killed. I mean, these are the collected figures. I mean, these are collected from the government data and the data from the newspapers. So the actual figure, the real figures are more than that. And today, guess what happened? On this month, on April 14, a lawsuit was filed against this platform demanding its closure. They do not want to hear about the figures, and they do not want anybody search about it. Turkey is one of the worst ranked countries in the world by means of femicide, and the femicide cannot be prevented. Last year, you will remember, on March 2021, Istanbul Convention was terminated with a presidential decree in overnight. And since then, we are combating to take it back. You will remember the treaty, the convention, as a whole covers the gold standard of combating violence against women and the domestic violence, which defines and includes the harmful tradition like custom and honor killings. With the cancellation of the convention, the men were encouraged to kill. This is the reality. And the forms of femicide have become more and more brutal. For instance, they cut women with the knives. They are cutting their throats. They are cutting women with the shotguns. They are hitting them from high rises, tall buildings. And they say that it is, I mean, it accidentally fell down. So on the day before, there was a court case in Turkey on April 18. Turkey's Council of State discussed over 200 applications. All the women's NGOs and bar associations applied to the High Court to take the Istanbul Convention back because of the cancellation of the convention with the presidential decree is totally unlawful. And in the final opinion of the Council of State, prosecutor demand the relevant decree is unlawful. We are in the same page with even the prosecutor. The top administrative court is expected to give its ruling and declare decision in 30 days maximum. We are hopeful about the result. We are expecting for it, and we are following together with the women's NGOs, all of the women's NGOs, women's movement in Turkey. To tell the truth, the women's movement is waging a great struggle under the difficult condition in every country. Not in Turkey, not in Iran, not in Pakistan, not in Afghanistan, in everywhere. We are fighting against the ones that they are very powerful. We are fighting against the government in Turkey. The ruling government, they are in power in ruling since more than 20 years. In summary, in Turkey, we are fighting against the ones who want to provide amnesty to the sexual abusers of children, which is called Penal Code 103, to cancel the ones who canceled Istanbul Convention, the ones who canceled women's alimony and child support, and who wants to roll back even the civil rights. This is the situation in Turkey today. In order to live with our dignity and honor, we have to wage the struggle nationally and internationally. We have to be in solidarity, and we have to struggle together. We have to build a solidarity network together. Let me finish by saying women are not alone, and there is a slogan of Stop Femicide platform. They say that you will never walk alone. We will never walk alone. We are together. I will answer your questions. Let me finish here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Fatma. Very interesting presentation with much details that we don't hear or read about it in the media. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kasir Ahmad. She sent the PowerPoint, but I was talking to her. She wasn't feeling well, so I assumed that she wasn't feeling well to be here, but she sent her PowerPoint and with voice here. So we're going to hear that. I'm going to introduce Kasir to all of you. Kasir Ahmad is a successful and dedicated, multifaceted consultant with a solid record of accomplishments in educational, media, business, and nonprofit environment. She has raised over $2 million for nonprofits based in the United States through her grants writing efforts. Her additional professional experiences include leadership coaching, building collaborations, and project designs and management. She has a proven track record on working with the understanding people from different and diverse background. Ms. Ahmad has worked extensively on gender issues and has provided numerous training, workshops, and seminars on women's rights. She's currently the president of Hayat Project, a company focusing on sustainability. And I had the honor of, we both were the co-chairs of Coalition of Women from Asia and the Middle East during the 90s, and still it's a women's human rights organization, particularly working on violence against women. So without further ado, we're going to show Kasir's presentation, which has her voice on it too. Thank you.
Salam. Thank you, Elahi, for inviting me to this roundtable discussion on honor killings and including the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. I am honored and delighted to be in the company of distinguished and courageous speakers representing Iraq, Kurdistan, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Iran. I like to give a background about myself rather than just focusing on my work related to violence against women. I have even included a map of Pakistan so listeners who may not be familiar with the country know its location in relationship to the countries being discussed today. I was born in Hyderabad in a province called Sindh, Pakistan, but my early childhood was spent in Quetta, Pakistan. Hyderabad is located south of the country, and Quetta is in the northern western of the country, bordering the Kandahar province of Afghanistan. So when I was asked by Elahi to join this important roundtable discussion, I was somewhat reluctant, as I come not as an expert on the issue. I have experience working on violence against women issues, but I knew I had to do considerable research. And when I sent this announcement about the event, one of my cousins requested this. May Allah bless you with the courage and foresightedness to speak the truth. Ameen. I replied to her, and I stress to you, I will do my best. So I began my research, and there is fairly extensive information written by scholars, women activists, local NGOs in Pakistan. And, Pakistan has faced many challenges. By the time I was born, the country was only 4 years old. The partition of Pakistan and India was a very traumatic and violent event. According to one CNN news story, an estimated 1 million people died during one of the greatest mass migrations in the world. Reportedly, 75,000 women were abducted and brutally raped by people belonging to the opposite faith. Since my parents left the country when I was young for overseas, and except for a few visits, there is a void of history for me of what took place thereafter, except for what I read and saw on television. Since there is a 10-minute allotment to speak, I framed this presentation like this. I highlighted major legal origin and the developments until 1990. I've included some religious reference, as well as some approaches to countering key challenges facing women and girls in Pakistan. I will not speak on all the slides as they are clearly stated and referenced. From the scholarly research and position papers, there is one slide that needs to be pointed out, and that is the one on the Indian Penal Code 1860. The code brought in the tradition of treating the offenders of honor killings with leniency and latitude. The code is a colonial product which, in my opinion, appears to have left a number of thorns within the legal framework. Now, research and position papers also show that in 1990, Pakistan introduced its version of the Islamic Criminal Law, which allowed for compromise between the parties of the murder cases. Now, in spite of the fatwas and what is clearly spelled out in the Quran, as well as the subsequent laws, which will hopefully be described in later parts, protests and advocacy by NGOs and the women activists, as well as the international organizations, honor killings continue to rise. And it is not enough to say, well, it does not happen in our family. Honor killings is one form of violence against women and girls in Pakistan. Statistics on all forms of violence against women and girls are staggering and may be examined in future parts. In reviewing the data, the research, the facts, I tried to reach out to the women-led NGOs in Pakistan, but I was unable to reach a response at this time. So I reached out to a nonprofit here in the United States that I know that has been empowering girls and communities through their programs across the country, the Merit Grants for Young Women, MGYW. I've known them since early inception, and I know the founder. They raise funds to provide scholarship to girls in schools in Pakistan. They have sought partnerships locally, provide supplies, as well as facilitating now access to technology in rural areas for the girls in schools. This is one way to address the disparity and inequity that still exist in education for girls in the country. Now, Mrs. Nasira Zara is also seeking collaborations to launch key programs to help women and girls in her region, Keris, that lies in northern Pakistan. Presently, there are a number of unknowns in Pakistan with regard to its economic and political future. Knowing the facts, knowing the challenges, there is still a lot that can be done for women and girls in Pakistan. Establish a working relationship with organizations like MGYW that have staffing, connections, partnerships with schools, NGOs, and local governments on the ground, and assist them to work mutually to raise funds if needed. For the nonprofits and activists that are overseas, reach out to the local NGOs as much as possible and ask them what support do they want and need. Create this collective discussions such as this one to continue to raise awareness and research, and also perhaps support individuals like Mrs. Nasira Zara to launch projects that will be received positively in her village or villages like that, and connect with the local mosque and local religious leaders to create change. The challenges are immense, but with the facilitation of social media, outreach has become easier and change will happen. But let us hope for Pakistan it does not take another 75 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Salam.
Thank you very much. This was presentation of Kasir Ahmad that unfortunately she couldn't be with us today. The next speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce Hoda Hamush. She was born in 1996 in Iran. She was a child when her family moved back to Afghanistan and their home province of Pawan in the north of Kabul. She trained as a journalist and worked for several local radio channels as a presenter and with Mandegar daily newspaper as a writer and journalist in Kabul. For the past 4 years, Hamush, who lived in Kabul, has been writing poetry covering topics of love, war, and women. She admits that it's been hard not to see friends, but poetry has been constantly by her side, helping her process the pandemic and the fear that comes with it. Hoda Hamush held a speech at the Oslo conference January 23rd, 2022. Presently, she lives in exile in Oslo, Norway. It's my pleasure to have Hoda with us today. She speaks in Dari, and Ruhi are one of the active members of the campaign Stop Honor Killing. She will be Ruhi Shafi'i. She will be translating her work, her talks. Thank you. Hoda Jan.
سلام وقت همه بخیر. ما پوزش میخوایم که نمیتونم انگلیسی خوب صحبت بکنم، برای همین خیلی سخت است بتونم همه عواطف خودم انتقال بدم و ممنون از این برنامه خوبی که حداقل یک گوشه از درد زنها را در بر میگیره. الهه جان، من نمیفهمم که همزمان ترجمه میشه تو مسئله ما ایستم ادامه بدم.
روحی جان ترجمه، رزوان جان گفتن روحی جان ترجمه میکنن.
پروین جان میشه لطفاً آنمیوت کنید روحی جان رو؟ پروین جان.
Okay, sure. Hoda Jan, I'm sorry. Can you say it again, because my microphone was unmuted, so I was muted, so I couldn't translate it. Could you start from the beginning? Could you speak up a bit?
میشه لطفاً اول دوباره تکرار کنید چون که میکروفونشون بسته بود.
ببخشید رضوان جان.
No problem عزیزم.
سه طرفه شد. هدا جان بفرمایید، صداتون خیلی ضعیفه.
الان بهتر شد؟
یه کمی. یا گوشه من یه خورده مشکل داره.
حتما بلند بکنه صدای کامپیوترتون.
الان خوب. مرسی.
سلام میفرستم به همه. ممنون از این برنامه خوب و حداقل این برنامه‌ها میتونه یک گوشه از آگاهی از درد زنها برای جامعه‌ای که هنوز آگاهی کاملی از خاورمیانه و درد زنان خاورمیانه ندارن یک روشنایی برانداز بکنه.
خیلی ممنونم. هر جمله‌ای که گفتین من ترجمه میکنم بعد جمله بعدی. Hoda is saying hello to everybody, and she says she's going to talk about a society which is still way behind maybe other societies around in this subject that we're talking today. Yes, بفرمایید.
من خودم نمیفهمم از کجا شروع بکنم، چون خود من یکی از کسانی هستم که 2 عضو خانواده خود را در قتل ناموسی از دست دادیم که اینها به طور وحشیانه به قتل رسیدن. یکی از او مادر من هست و یکی از او خواهر 12 ساله من بود.
Okay, she says she doesn't know where to start the story. از درست فهمیدم گفتین که نمیتونین از کجا شروع کنین. ببخشید چون صداتون خیلی ضعیفه من زیاد متوجه نشدم که
الان به نظرم بهتر شد.
آره الان آره بهتر شد. Okay, she's going to start her story. She says she doesn't know where to start the story of, you know, the situation of women in Afghanistan. بفرمایید.
خب من نمیفهم از کجا ترجمه کردین و اما میخواستم بگویم که من نمیفهمم از کجا شروع بکنم، چون من خودم یکی از کسای آسیب پذیرترین که زنی هستم که عضو خانواده خود را که مادر و خواهر من بود در قتل ناموسی از دست دادم، اونم به طور وحشیانه.
Okay, she says she doesn't know where to start because in her own family she lost her mother as a result of the honor killing, unfortunately.
و شاهد خیلی از حادثه ها، خیلی از
and her sister, her 11-year sister as well. Yes, بفرمایید. ببخشید.
خواهش میکنم. و شاهد خیلی از اتفاقات وحشیانه در روستایی که من زندگی میکردم، شاهد قتل‌های ناموسی از طرف پدر، از طرف همسر و از طرف برادر برای زنانی که در اونجا زندگی میکردن اتفاق میافتاد.
She says, you know, in the environment that she was living, everybody was violent in a way, and that was brother, father, everybody. Basically, I think what she means is that men in her family, you know, were acting violently or were not kind enough in the family, if I'm right. بفرمایید.
میخوایم از یک خاطره تلخ شروع بکنم. من تقریباً 13 سالم بود که از ایران به افغانستان برگشتم و یکی از عللای خیلی بدی که قتل ناموسی را میتونم منشای و بگذارم سواد کمتر و آگاهی بیشتری هست. در این و زمانی که زنان به عرصه آگاهی رسیدن و میفهمند حق و حقوقشان چی هست و خانواده هایی که در فقر بیسوادی به سر میبرند، این اتفاقات بیشتر میفته.
Yes, she says she wants to start with a very bitter memory that she's keeping with her, and that is when she was 13 years of age, and they went back from Iran to Afghanistan, and then she adds that the reason for honor killings or violence against women is that the lack of education in most families and the understanding of the problem, of lack of understanding of the problem, and the lack of or the poverty, cultural poverty of the society, basically. بفرمایید.
من زمانی که گفتم از یک خاطره شروع میکنم، وقتی از ایران برگشتم به افغانستان شاهد حوادث خیلی زیادی برای زنان بودم. یکی از آشنایای من که میتونستم از فامیلای دور خانوادگی هم به حسابش بگیرم، بعد از تقاضاهای بسیار زیادی از خانواده پدر برادر که من میخوایم از همسرم جدا شوم، روبرو به یک وحشتی، به یک حادثه تکان دهنده شد که همسرش در یک شبی که با وجودی که 3 ماه به خانه همسرش برنگشته بود و تقاضا میکرد که از او طلاقش بگیرن چون ممکن است او را به قتل برسانه، اما خانوادهش گوش نداده بودن، در یک شب خیلی تاریک کلاً با چاقو او را تکه و پاره کرده بود.
I think you have a lot of sad stories in that. And she says, you know, when she was in Afghanistan, she witnessed how women in the family, in her own family, were subjected to violence by men and possibly killed. Is that, am I right? کشته شدن یا فقط خشونت رو شما دارین میگین؟
نه،
توی فامیلتون کشته شدن. And they were killed in her family. Yep. Okay.
و متاسفانه او خانم نه تنها که کودکان زیادی داشت، کودک پا به ماه هم نیز داشت، یعنی تقریبا 1 هفته برای تولد کودکش مانده بود و تا زمانی هم که به خاک سپردنش کودکش در شکمش زنده بود و نفس میکشید، چون حرکاتی که در داخل شکم انجام میداد واضح و آشکار بود و معلوم میشد که کودک زنده هست. از این قتل‌ها بیشتر در خاورمیانه، مخصوصا در کشورهای چون ایران، افغانستان و ترکیه اتفاقات بیشماری میافتند.
Yes, the example that she's giving is that, you know, the specific woman she's talking about, she says she had several children and she was pregnant at the time that, you know, the accident happened. And then she adds that such sad stories happens in the Middle East, in the area, you know, that we are living. And this specific woman that she's talking about, that she was pregnant when she was attacked, the child was alive in her womb, and it is very sad to even translate such a horrible, you know, story. Anyway, go on, Hoda, the family.
با وجودی که این همه سال گذشته هنوز ما پیدا نکردیم منشأ این قتل‌ها چرا هیچ وقتی از دامنه خانواده و جامعه پاک شدنی نیست. تلاش‌های بیشماری از طرف زنها، از طرف نهادها، از طرف نهادهای بین‌المللی انجام شده، ولی هیچ وقتی این باعث نشده که ریشه این قتل‌ها و این بگونه قتل‌های ناموسی خشک بشه. یا بنیادی کار نمی کنیم یا اینکه تنها حرفش میزنیم و اثرش بگونه میگذریم که شاهد حوادث خیلی زیادی میشیم. همین دیروز، البته امروز اما در خود آلمان، در یک کشور با عصر دموکراسی، عصر آزادی، حقوقی که متعادل است، یک خانمی به قتل رسیده و از طرف همسر گذشتهش که او را به گلوله زده و دوباره در جلوی چشم مردم سر او را جدا کرده.
Yes, what she says is that although many, during many years, a lot of efforts have been made in Afghanistan from the side of the activists, women activists, I suppose she means, to deal with such killings and to find the root causes of the killings, but still nothing has happened. Still the situation is the same. Even those people, those Afghan people who are in a country such as Germany, which is quite a democratic, advanced country, they still, women are subjected in Germany, are subjected to honor killing and violence. What she believes, the question she's asking is that maybe we're not working that hard, or we are not working well towards it. That is her question. I might have my own answer, but go on, Neda John.
Okay. نمیفهمم وقتی این قصه ها رو میکنم کلا بدن من میلرزه و قلبم تون میزنه. خوب است که با برنامه هایی بتانیم این ریشه را از خود خاورمیانه حداقل جمع کنیم. فکر میکنم منشأ این قتل ها از عقده های کودکانه هست، از عقده های مذهبی و دینی هست که ما هنوز نتوانستیم مسئله دین با زندگی، مسئله مذهبی با زندگی را حل بکنیم. و عقده‌های کودکانه‌ای که منشاش از خانواده و اجتماع کوچک گرفته میشه حل مسئله بکنیم.
Thank you. What she's saying is that, even talking about it is very traumatizing. And she says maybe we can deal with them to find the root causes, which is the culture or the Islamic belief, the religion. And she believes that we have to find the root causes of the problem and then deal with the root causes of it.
Mm-hmm. هنوز به گذشتهش نمیتونیم فکر بکنیم که چگونه حل مسئله گذشته بکنیم که اتفاقات جدید داره میفته. امروزه که طالبان در افغانستان حاکم شدن و رژیمشان تک جنسیتی هست و هیچ برابری و هیچ برنامه‌ای برای زنان ندارن، تنها زنان را از آموزش و کار و حق انتخاب محروم نکردن که آنها را تا با بلند کردن صدایشان، با حق انتخابشان و یا مثل گذشته و قتل‌های هدفمند رو می‌سازند. ما در این 7 ماهی که طالبان حاکم شدن بیشمار زنانی که تارگت و آماربندی کردیم روبرو به قتل‌های ناموسی، ازدواج‌های کودکانه و خانواده هایی که به خاطر اینکه دخترانشان به حرف اونا گوش نمیدن و امروزه چون حق و حقوق برنامه‌ای برای بررسی قضا وجود نداره، این خانواده ها خانواده های خیلی نزدیک میتونم اشاره بکنم که اونا میگن دیگر آزادی گذشت، دیگر حقوق گذشت و امروزه حق ماست و ما میتونیم عقده های خودمان رو برای شما خالی بکنیم، خودمان ارضا بکنیم در مقابل این عقده ها. چون قبلا در این طی 20 سال شما میتونستین با قضاها رو بررسی بکنین، برین فرار بکنین، به خانه های هم پناه ببرین، برای خودتان مستقل باشین، ولی امروزه نمیتونین.
And she goes back to the time of the Taliban takeover in about 7 months, since August, I think. While when they came to power in Afghanistan, they deprived women of working, of going to school, to secondary school and onward. And so as a result, you know, they have more honor killings, more killing of women, and then the child marriage, and even the 20 years between the first Taliban and the second Taliban, they could build some safe houses for women, but now, according to her, they are not allowed to go, women are not allowed to go to those safe houses. I don't know if خونه ها رو بستن، خونه های امنو یا چیکار کردن. They closed down the safe houses. بستن. Yes.
Okay. خب نمیخوام با حاشیه برم، هر قدر بگوییم این حادثه ها و این دردها خیلی زیاد است، اما بتونیم راه حلی پیدا بکنیم به این قتل های ناموسی که چی در ایران، چی در افغانستان و چی در سایر کشورها رخ میده پایان و یا ریشه او را خشک بکنیم. اینکه بنویسیم، اینکه برنامه‌هایی بگیریم، اینکه تحقیقاتی انجام بدیم، شاید بتونه روی خانواده‌هایی که تازه رو به نما هستن، رو به رشد هستن، برای آینده کمتر و کمترش بکنیم. چون این عقیده ها و این ریشه دین با زندگی، با ریشه دین با زنان باعث میشه که این قتل ها اتفاق بیفته. و اما ما فقط تاسف میخوریم و فقط با خانواده ها شاید یک روز یا 2 روز همدردی بکنیم، ولی هیچ دردی از سینه مادری که فرزندشه و یا دختر جوانش از دست میده دردآور نیست.
Yes. Basically what she says that we are just talking about these incidents. We're talking about, you know, killing of women, but practically we cannot do, or we haven't done anything about it. It's just we can review, we can talk about it, but doing something about it is a different story, which she says that at least in Afghanistan, they've failed, and Hoda Jan, I think in Iran we have failed as well. We're just talking about it, but she says it's not something that when a mother loses her daughter, it's not just us feeling sorry for that mother. It's not the solution to the problem of yet another mother doesn't get her daughter killed. بفرمایید. تموم شد یا؟
خیلی ممنون و خیلی خوشحال شدم که اینجا صحبت کردم و حرفایی از قتل‌های ناموسی در افغانستان مخصوصا یادآور شدم، گرچه که خیلی زیاد است، نمیتونیم همه را واضح و آشکار یا بنویسیم یا بگوییم، اما خوب است که روی این پدیده شومی که برای ننگ و پاک کردن ننگ است کارهای بیشتری صورت بگیره تا بتونیم کتاب این کتاب از حداقل ببندیم و دیگر بازش نکنیم. خیلی ممنون.
Yes, she's hoping that we can do something practically about it and then close this book. I don't know how we will succeed to close the book of honor killings ever, but this is what Hoda is hoping. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hoda Jan. I appreciate you shared your experience, very heartbreaking experience that you shared with us. And thank you, Ruhiye Shafi'i Gerami, for translating. Thank you. Our last speaker of the panel is, which I have the honor to present her, Chuman Hardy. She's an educator, poet, and a scholar known for pioneering work on issues of gender and education in the Kurdistan region of Iraq and beyond. After 26 years of exile, She returned home in 2014 to teach English and initiate gender studies at American University of Iraq in Soleimaniye, where she also served as English department chair in 2015 and 16. She founded the Center for Gender and Development Studies in AUIS in 2015, developed and taught feminist courses, built a team, fundraised and conducted and published research. Choman was the driving force behind initiating the first interdisciplinary gender studies minor in Iraq in 2017. She was also been to make gender studies resources available in Kurdish and Arabic, and with her team secured funding from European Union for it. In 2019, she received support from the UK Global Challenge Research Fund for a research project about masculinity and violence in partnership with London School of Economics. Choman is the author of critically acclaimed books in the field of poetry, academia, and translation. Funded by Leverholme Trust, her postdoctoral research, Gendered Experiences of Genocide, Anfal Survivors in Kurdistan, Iraq, was named a UK core title by the Yankee Book Peddler. Since 2010, poems from her first English collection, Life for Us, has been studied by secondary school students as part of their general curriculum in the UK. Her second collection, Considering the Woman, was given a recommendation by the Poetry Book Society. Oops, I'm sorry. I went to Poetry Book Society. It jumped to the actual page of it. Poetry Book Society, and shortlisted for the prestigious Forward Prize for Best Collection. In 2017, a selection of her poems was published in Italian. In 2020, Considering the Woman was released in a French translation. A former chairperson of Exiled Writers, Inc., Choman was facilitated creative writing workshops for the School of Oriental and African Studies. The R1 Foundation spread the word, Shetland Arts, Academy Wales, South Bank Centre, Apples and Snakes, and the British Council. She was poet in residence of Maniac Moher, Writers Centre in Scotland, Villa Hele Bush in Belgium, Hedgebrook, which I'm very familiar with Hedgebrook actually, Hedgebrook Women's Writer Retreat in the US, and the booth in Southland. Without further ado, Choman-jan, please start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation and for the good lineup. If I may, I would like to share the screen with you, my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. I hope everybody else can see it. I think it's okay. Yeah.
Yes, I can see it.
All right, excellent. So I'm going to talk about honor killing and masculinity. This is partly the result of our research, a 5-year project in partnership with London School of Economics about masculinity. So despite 30 years of activism in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, 10 women were killed in the first 2 months of 2022. Data by the General Directorate of Combating Violence Against Women shows a high number of victims and a variety of types of violence. I wanted to share with you the table for years 2015 to 2019. As you can see, the cases of murder, honor killing, they sort of fluctuate between 45 to 56, around that number almost every year. But the higher numbers are also to do with suicide and suicide by fire, self-immolation. That's a very common way of women killing themselves in this region. And even a higher number of sexual harassment reports. The Kurdistan regional government started collecting data about violence against women since 2007. This was after the stoning to death of a Yazidi girl, a 17-year-old Yazidi girl, which was filmed widely by many bystanders, including the police, who did nothing to stop the murder. So the data, women's rights organizations believe that the data does not represent the reality, because not all the cases get reported and not all the cases are known, but at least it gives you an idea. Since the law changed in 2002, where the honor killing law, which allowed men to have a reduced sentence if they could prove that they killed a woman because of honor, that law was evoked in the Kurdistan region. It still works in Iraq, but since then it seems like some men are aware that there may be legal consequences to their action, and sometimes what they do is they make life hell for women so that they kill themselves instead. So some of these suicides are also instigated by the way women are treated, the violence, the harassments they live through. For a century, the struggle against women's oppression was subordinated to the national liberation movement. So many women believed that once Kurdistan is liberated, men and women would be equal, and therefore they united their forces with the men. But when the revolution ended and the revolutionaries came to power, women's oppression continued and violence against women kept rising. The Kurdish national discourse is very much preoccupied with political issues. And by that, I mean very pure politics like governing, corruption, nepotism, issues to do with management, budget, and so on, and party politics, but ignores larger social justice issues and doesn't consider them important enough. So in our project, Masculinity, Violence and Prevention, we collected data about, basically we interviewed mostly men. So we conducted a number of things. We conducted a survey, a preliminary survey. We did focus groups with men and some interviews and observations. In the survey, a total of 1,400 people responded to the survey. The majority of them, as you can see, were female. Majority were female, young, and living in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. We asked this question: who has used violence in your family? Fortunately, 49.5% said nobody has, but those who reported violence, as you can see, the male data is much higher than the female data. The majority of the cases were father committing violence against mother, or father against children, followed by brother against sister, and then son against parents. The female data, interestingly, the highest number of violence used by women was against children, 16%, and then mother against father, 5.8, 5.4 sister against brother, and a 3% reported daughter against their parents. So male violence was much higher. In particular, the biggest victim, the largest number of victims were women targeted by men. So looking at the qualitative data with men, we found some very interesting contradictions. So male aggression was seen as natural. They argued that God has made it this way so that men could be suitable fighters, they can protect their family and nation. But when we presented them with images of women fighters in Rojava, northeast Syria, these are all Kurdish women, a voluntary military where more than 5,000 women fighters have been fighting ISIS, Daesh. Rather than seeing bravery, leadership, sacrifice, and patriotism as human characteristics, they insisted, the men, that these are men's characteristics and some women can also embody them. So this did not change their mind about what masculinity and femininity are supposed to be about. And they call these women merdin. They are men. They have this honor to be recognized as men. But when faced with other examples that contradicted their argument, for example, women leaders, women who exceeded men in their ability to reason, to fight, to provide, and to protect, they fell back to their old argument about God and nature. This is how it is. This is what God made, and this is nature. These women were always highlighted as exceptions to the rule, which did not change their perception of the status quo or dislodge their own gender discourse and their perception of what men and women are, what their definitions may be. Reasons for high violence. So one thing that was reported by participants was war and militarization and violence of the state. A man argued that unlike Western men who have never seen, never heard bullet shots, Middle Eastern men have grown up during war. They are struggling with lack of basic rights and services, and they are struggling with a harsh physical environment. Another man said, we grew up surrounded by dead bodies. We played with corpses during the uprising. This has affected our views and actions. So their understanding that larger scale state violence actually affects their way of committing violence and normalization of violence in their everyday occurrences. Another reason was reported to be the threatened masculinity. So one man said, as an oppressed nation, Kurds have no confidence in themselves because others have always had hegemony over them. So the fact that men feel threatened, their masculinity is being overshadowed by the masculinity of this the state in power, they therefore compensate by controlling women and being, because they want to escape this feminization and powerlessness. Nira Yuval Davis talks about this. She says, feelings of disempowerment, which result from processes of colonialization and subjugation, have often been interpreted by the colonized men as processes of demasculinization and or feminization. The reconstruction of men's and often even more importantly women's roles in the process of resistance and liberation has become central to most of these struggles. So experiencing powerlessness as men means that they overcompensate by being the man in the house and controlling women. So growth of tribal power, and this has been several stages of. Efrati talks about this. He talks about the British policy in Iraq in the 1920s, giving power to the tribes and so on. We later had the Iraqi state arming tribesmen to fight the Kurdish revolutionaries in the 1970s and 80s, and later the Americans in the aftermath of 2003, making alliances with big tribes and trying to form a coalition. So I want to quickly mention what the women's movement has achieved in this region. Before 1992 is the year where the Kurdistan regional government was established and the Kurdistan parliament was voted and so on. And we sort of have a pseudo-independent autonomy where we're a bit like Scotland with our own legislation. Some are different from Iraqi and some are still the same. But before 92, when the KRG was established, gender-related issues were suspended, as I mentioned, because they were sacrificed for the National Liberation Movement. There were no independent women's rights organizations, but only party organs. We had the Iraqi Women's League by the Communist Party of Iraq, established in 1952, Kurdistan Women's Union, 1952, Kurdistan Democratic Party, Women's Union of Kurdistan, Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, that is 1989. After 1992, you see a sudden proliferation of women's rights organizations. Initially, many of them were associated with political parties, and because of that, they were divided. They could not form a united alliance, but in the mid-2000s, networks and shared campaigns started to appear, and the work started to bear fruit. So the legal reforms that they managed to bring about, the first and most important one was the 2002 criminalization of honor killing. According to Iraqi law, that law still stands where a man could get away with punishment if he can prove that he's killed a woman for reasons of honor. That law is suspended in the KRG. The 2008 civil status law reform, this imposed, unfortunately, polygamy was not banned, but at least they imposed more restrictions on it. I can go into details, but we don't have time. Forced marriage became a punishable crime. Women could prohibit polygamy in their marriage certificates. Women could claim the right to divorce, which was much more difficult in the past. Women were recognized as the legal guardians of their children in the absence or death of husband or his absence. So the 2011 was another major achievement, combating violence within the family. The offenses included violence, and violence was recognized as physical, sexual, psychological. This is the first recognition of other types of violence, not just physical violence. Exchange of brides, including a child for a grown woman, has become a crime. Giving a woman in exchange for blood feuds has become a crime. Forced prostitution, suicide through violence, forced sex with husband, otherwise known as marital rape. It's not given that name, but it's just called forced sex with husband, abortion through violence, and female genital mutilation. These all became offenses that had punishments recognized. Finally, I just want to say, despite the changes and the reforms and the good work of women's rights organizations for 30 years, it seems like the institution or the system plays or has launched an invisible war against women. What do I mean by that? I mean that they have made legal reforms, but actually implementation is problematic. And the nature of the law is such that if the family do not make a complaint against the killer, a women's rights organization or staff or activist cannot do that. And obviously when a father has killed a daughter or a son has killed a daughter, usually there is no complainant. So nobody really files a complaint, and therefore the cases go unpunished. There are issues with judges, obviously patriarchal judges who support the criminals, destruction of evidence, a lot of forensic, by the time the evidence comes to the forensic center, a lot has been destroyed, a long bureaucratic process where if women's rights organizations do not follow up, many of these cases take so long and they fall by the wayside through the bureaucracy and people forget about them. Another thing is we have a quota system in Iraq and Kurdistan. It's 25% in Iraq, 30% in the KRG. But the women who are chosen to occupy these positions of power and centers of decision making, they're chosen mainly because they don't pose a threat to the system. So they're chosen based on party loyalty rather than their dedication to women's rights and women's issues. They have set up gender studies centers in the Kurdistan universities. More than 30 centers were established, and the Ministry of Higher Education issued a decree mandating gender studies, but unfortunately there was no resources provided to professors, no academic resources or financial resources, no training to prepare them for this class that they're supposed to teach. Therefore, the implementation has been, if anything, very problematic. They established gender units in 9 ministries in order to do gender mainstreaming, but usually these people have many other responsibilities on top of that, and they're not dedicated to this job, and many of them lack the training or the background experience. So sometimes it depends on the goodwill and hard work of the people involved, but they don't get any extra support from the government. And finally, the smear campaigns against activists who are regularly accused of being corrupt, of being a mafia, of being selling women to prostitution, trafficking women, forcing women to get divorced, destroying family structure in the community, and spreading homosexuality and making people get divorced against their wish. So a lot of social media smear campaigns happen against activists, and many of them obviously are intending to destroy the community's trust in the activists, and it's a huge backlash against the changes and reforms made. And I will stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chomanjan, for an excellent presentation. You shared the statistics and challenges, and also the change in law that we usually don't hear in other places in mainstream media. So thank you very much. I have one question in the chat that it's asking all the panel presenters, whoever want to speak, or all of you, is that what are the commonalities and patterns in honor killing, honor crime, femicide that we heard today, from Pakistan to Iraqi Kurdistan to Iran, Afghanistan, and Turkey? If you have any comments or you want to share your thoughts about what we all heard about honor crime, honor killing, femicide in the countries of South Asia and West Asian countries. If anybody want to share a thought.
Elijah, shall I?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rizwan Jan, because I'm on iPhone, I can't, I apologize for the way I'm handling it, because I have my laptop on the words to introduce, but I'm on iPhone. So yes, please, Rizwan Jan.
Yes, I understand. I cannot raise my hand
Right.
Yeah, I found that patriarchy is the main common issue, and some traditional customs, cultural beliefs, and also the religion. I found these factors that they are common in the honor killings, not only in the Middle East, some African countries, even in the Western countries.
Thank you. Yes, the power structure of patriarchal system definitely is a cause. And I just want to share that honor killing, the way we understand it, it's not limited to West Asia or South Asia or any religion or any region. There are some literature on honor killing with the same concept in Brazil and some other countries. So yes, definitely the power structure of patriarchal system is the root cause of honor killing or any kind of violence against women. There is a question for Choman. What is the role of women in implementing the legal reform in Kurdistan?
So many of the women's rights organizations, there are specific ones that consist of lawyers, for example, and they provide free legal services to women on cases of divorce, violence, custody of children, inheritance, all sorts. And one of them is, of course, honor killing cases. The problem with the law, the reforms that were made, is that they cannot directly be a side in the trial. All they can do is they can sort of put pressure on the prosecutor to raise the case, because there are two rights. There's the private right of the person, the victim, and there's the public right. So through the public right, and I'm not a law expert, I'm just telling you in rough language what I've heard from lawyers. Prosecutors can do that, but individual women activists or lawyers cannot do that without somebody making an official complaint. But the other thing that they do is that they, as part of the law change, they are allowed to observe the trials, and they sometimes try to raise awareness through social media and alert to the public that a case is being mishandled. And these have been in past instances quite useful. So how high-profile cases where it's taken a long time, but the perpetrator is finally brought to justice, has been usually a case where women's rights organizations have persistently pushed for justice to be met, and also have tried to raise the profile of the case, going to the media, using their social network, and so on. So they have been able to do that, but unfortunately, the majority of the judiciary, the judges, are male. And even when you have women judges, we all know women, many women are still part of the patriarchal system, and they have inherited and believe in the places of men and women and their definitions of what appropriate feminine behavior should be. Therefore, these things actually influence the decisions made. There has been a lot of push for example, the Judiciary Institute. There should be a course on gender sensitivity. We have been trying to work on that. We produced a gender and law course for university level. But the problem is, even when you provide the resources in mother tongue, the decision to implement it has to come from above. And as you know, with for example, the suffrage movement in the West, it took 70 years for men to come on board to give women the right to vote. It takes a long time to bring men on board to make those decisions, but they are in positions of power and they need to make those decisions for things to be implemented.
Thank you very much. And that is still the story here in United States, that and we are facing that challenge in community activism. As just this last week, CEDAW, the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, that the United States has not ratified it, was facing challenges in San Diego. county in California. So the challenges are global with different intensity, of course. Another question that I have is that with the pandemic, with the COVID situation and lockdown, definitely all the literature from United Nations and other institutions, higher education, suggests that the violence against women and honor killing has increased globally. So, can any one of you comment? Because definitely in Iran, we see a sharp increase. We always had honor killing and honor crime, but we see a sharp increase since for the last 2 years in honor killings in Iran. Definitely pandemic is not the only reason, but can Fatma or you, Chomanjan, or anyone can add a comment about what are other reasons that we see a rise in the incidence of honor killings?
Thank you, Elahi. And I would like to make comment also the commonalities. I mean, patriarchy is the one of the common area. We have to mention that. The other area, for instance, there's legal system is there. I mean, there are legal protection. Women are protected under the law, but they do not implement it because all the judiciary system, all the police system, they have mentally they are patriarchal. So implementation is a big problem. So one of the slogan we use, implement the law, do not change, because with this mind, if they change the law, for sure they are gonna go behind, not forward. So we ask them to implement it. With the pandemic, after the pandemic, the figures are raised rapidly. We followed it. We followed it with the figures from the independent women's platform, women's movement. In Turkey, most of the women's movement, we call it independent. There are also women's organization, we call them GONGO, government organized women's organization, but the opinion and figures coming from those organizations is not reputable. There is no reputation inside or outside of country, we know that. So the figures are increased because women could not access to the judiciary system, could not access to anywhere during the pandemic. But as the time being, the women's organization helped a lot to resolve this problem. That is why the independent women's organization is crucially important. And one more thing is very important during this stage we witnessed, and we have the experience on it. The solidarity, international solidarity is important. After this panel, I believe that we need to build a network, solidarity network, and we need to fight against all the implementation of harmful traditions, and if there is a harmful legal law, legal system, we should also fight against to those laws together. This is all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elahi.
Thank you, Fatma Jan. Thank you. Excellent comments. I have a comment. Let me see. Just a second. I have. Well, one of the participants is commenting that Malihe John, she is commenting that she doesn't think we see an increase in the incidence of honor killings, but we get more reports because of the social media and information technology, and our world is very connected. We hear more about it. Yes, that is definitely. I invite all the speakers to comment, but definitely from it's obvious that definitely information technology is providing more information and much quicker. You know, something happened in Iran, the campaign to stop honor killing received within hours the news. But I invite all the panelists also to comment that do you think in your the respective country that you were reporting also the number has increased, or is just the social media and information technology reporting more about it?
If I may,
Sure.
I think there's definitely something in the fact that, for example, the government here, we had sporadic data by women's rights NGOs about honor killing. Some had a little bit, some had others, you know, different areas. And for the first time since 2007, we have centralized data collected by the government. Since 2007, they have established 17 directorates throughout the Kurdistan regional government. And that means, of course, they have more access to women in the community and better reporting. But on the other hand, I think violence against women has risen. And the reason why I say that is because in the past, women did not fight back as much as they do now. Young women nowadays do not accept oppression. They rise and rebel, and they want to establish their own life for themselves. And, you know, systems of oppression that are challenged can become very aggressive, and they fight back. And I feel that we are experiencing a backlash. Any achievement in the women's rights actually leads to a reaction by the system, and that usually means more violence. So, for example, many women women's rights organizations worked a lot with women, raising awareness, informing them about their changed legal rights, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the work was mainly focused on women, and the men weren't part of the process. And this usually causes problems because, I mean, this consciousness has to change on both sides. So a woman suddenly goes back to her husband and says, I now have rights. I know I'm not going to accept this anymore. The reaction is usually violence. So I think we need to work with men and women together. And many women's rights organizations acknowledge that, and they are trying to do better. But we are also witnessing a backlash, as well as more information about what's going on.
Thank you. Any other comments, Fatma? Rizwan John, do you have any other comment, any additional comment?
May I?
Sure.
I completely agree with Shoman Hardy. Really, we started to work with men also together, because we have given training to women. I mean, hundreds training. They got all the training. As you said, they go back to home, and when they defend their rights towards the husband, it comes back as a violence to them. So we said that, like he for she woman, we need to work together. All the men should be not in front of us, behind us, or in the same level. We have to fight together in this issue. And there is another point. Election is coming, for instance, in Turkey. The woman needs to sit in the decision point, in those parliament. It is very important. If women are not in the decision point, I mean, men will be taking decision on behalf of women, and nothing is going to change. We need to fight for it. We need to fight for the equal representation, which is very important, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely a well-taken point as the role of women in leadership and policy making and being in position of power. It's very, very important. It's a key factor. But the challenges are multifaceted on this issue of violence against women. And we need a cultural shift as well as changing law, which in Iran, that I'm a little bit more familiar with the laws in Iran, it's slightly being taken. You know, the punishment, although the punishment is not the only answer, it's just education and raising awareness. And a few years ago, UN had a campaign on he for she. And I do believe in that, because we do violence against women is not only the the challenge of women. It's a societal challenge, and we need every member of society to stand by eradicating violence against women. Any other questions from participants? Let me look at the chat. Any other question? There are some opinion expressed in Farsi and English on the chat that we can read, but any other question? And I think we have 5 more minutes for the program. Any other comments? I want to highly suggest that only this be the beginning of a collaboration and coalition building between countries of the region, particularly South Asian countries and the West Asian. I don't like to use Middle Eastern because it's a colonial-centric term. So with West Asian, South Asian country, build a network and work together to bring this issue from margin to the center of attention and hold the people in position of power accountable. So I think we do change only comes if we work together and have a more forceful demand and accountability for people in position of power. But any last comments of any of the speakers? Please share your thoughts. We have few more minutes, 4 more minutes, so I want to give your last hear your last thought. Rizwan John, you want to share your final thoughts?
Just I wanted to add something. Hoda mentioned in her presentation that one of the most issue is raising awareness between women, but men are still instant to against women. They don't want to accept the rights of women. This is one of the main problems. And the United Nations, the last report of the United Nations in 2017 shows that it is a crisis. Killing women is a crisis worldwide, not only in the Asian country or African, everywhere. We can see murder of women on the name of honor killings. And I wanted to appreciate all the people who joined this event. And I hope that we can put hand in hand with the women's rights activists in neighborhood. And I think we can do, many things if we can be together. Thank you, Ella John, and thank you all of the panelists.
Any other comments from the panelists? Final thought?
Yes, I am really ready to work for building a network together. Let's do that. Let's do that, and I will be the contact point with all the Turkish women's movement, Turkish organization. Let's work together. Let's do that together and empower ourselves. I believe that we can do that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Any other? Well, thank you very much to our presenter. It was an excellent event to hear from different countries in the region. And I hope our collaboration and coalition building on issues of violence against women continue, and only collectively we can make change possible. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the participants. And again, sincerely, I apologize for all the technical difficulty. I keep changing my internet and it's still not connected. So I'm hand-holding my iPhone for the duration of this presentation. And I have to figure out what's going on in our neighborhood that we don't have internet. Thank you and have a beautiful day, night, evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was an honor to be all of you together.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Shuman and Hoda.
Thank you.
Thank you.